morning. This is the Minnesota Senate Environmental and Natural Resources Finance Committee. We'll call it to order Wednesday, March 24th, 2021. Members, we have two bills before us today, both of which will be held over for possible inclusion. We have Senator Johnson and Senator Ruud before us today. We're going to start out with Senator Johnson, Senate File 839. And Senator Johnson, I see you have several testifiers, so I do have the list of them. If you want to go ahead and explain your bill and go forward. Welcome
Wonderful.
To the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's good to be back home to my original committee assignment. So it's good to be here. Members, we have Senate File 839 up before us today. This is a bill that deals with the whole effluent toxicity. What it basically boils down to is we have two separate standards in the state of Minnesota on what can be released into through wastewater into the environment. And so one of the issues that we're having up in Northwest Minnesota is that this two different standards that we're dealing with is really putting a hold on one of my plants, my sugar beet processing plants, that is having some issues with this. So what we want to do is change this to a single standard that's being used in the Superior watershed basin that's been used over there for years, and we want to do that across the state. With that, Mr. Chair and members, I do have a number of testifiers who are very versed in this and would like to speak to the bill. I have Jeremy Greenhouse, Doug Emerson, and well, those two I see up on the screen now. So whoever.
Okay, I don't know who would like to go first, either Doug or Jeremy. Which one would like to go first?
Mr. Chair, this is Jeremy Greenhouse. I think Doug Emerson would like to go first,
okay.
But if possible, I would like to share a PowerPoint presentation if that works.
Sure. At the same time, Mr. Emerson's testifying?
Yes, please.
Okay. Mr. Emerson, welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Doug Emerson. I'm the Environmental Affairs Manager with American Crystal Sugar Company.
Welcome.
So yes, if you could all share along with the presentation that Jeremy has brought up there, I will speak to those slides there.
I think it's showing up.
Perfect.
Go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity to speak to you regarding Senate File 839. Our company supports this bill because it would eliminate a double standard being applied within the state of Minnesota regarding the requirements that businesses who discharge wastewater must meet for whole effluent toxicity, or WET. This double standard has significantly impacted American Crystal Sugar Company. As I will explain, if we were located within the Lake Superior Basin region of Minnesota, Mpca's rules would allow a wet mixing zone, and implementing this mixing zone would cost less than $1 million. However, because we are located outside of the Lake Superior Basin, the same rules do not apply, and Mpca has a policy prohibiting wet mixing zones. As a result, to meet the wet requirements, we would need to build a treatment facility that would cost $14 million. American Crystal believes the requirement should be the same across the state. American Crystal Sugar was founded in 1899, built its first Red River Valley processing plant in 1926, and became a farmer-owned cooperative in 1973. American Crystal Sugar is the largest sugar beet processor in the United States with over 2,600 grower owners and over 2,000 employees. Crystal Sugar operates 3 sugar beet processing plants in the Red River Valley of Northwest Minnesota, along with 2 sugar beet processing plants in eastern North Dakota and 1 additional plant in eastern Montana. One of our plants is in Crookston, Minnesota, a small municipality with just over 8,000 residents. The plant was built in 1954 and provides jobs for approximately 280 employees. American Crystal Sugar holds a permit issued by the Mpca for wastewater discharges at the Crookston, Minnesota sugar beet processing facility. The principal activity at the Crookston facility, as with all of American Crystal Sugar Company's plants, is the processing of sugar beets into refined sugar, molasses, and dried beet pulp. Because sugar beets are approximately 71% water, the process of transforming the beets into sugar generates a substantial amount of water. Because this is recycled, or much of this is recycled back into the factory as processed water. The facility treats any surplus water through a large network of treatment ponds. And before the facility can discharge the final treated wastewater into the nearby Red Lake River, certain permit conditions must be met. One of these permit conditions is the passing of a whole effluent toxicity test. That is an annual test. WET measures the level of toxicity to fish and other aquatic life when a municipality or business discharges treated wastewater effluent into a river or stream. WET looks at the effluent as a whole, as opposed to looking at levels of individual chemicals. WET tests are conducted in a lab. For this reason, a WET test is a conservative test and does not reflect the mixing of effluent with the receiving water. Under Crookston's permit, the WET level during one of these annual tests exceeds certain thresholds. The permit requires the facility to submit plans to the Mpca to identify sources of the exceedance and evaluate ways to reduce toxicity. After exceeding the testing thresholds during Crookston's annual WET test in 2010, Crystal Sugar has been working in good faith with the Mpca for over a decade now to identify possible sources of toxicity in Crookston's discharge and find ways to address toxicity. Potential treatment options have been presented and shared with the Mpca. One of the most cost-effective solutions includes the establishment of what is known as an acute wet mixing zone. A mixing zone is frequently used when the Mpca sets effluent limits in the permits. It allows an effluent limit to be less stringent than the applicable water quality standard, so as long as the standard is met in the receiving water shortly after mixing with the effluent. Mpca's rules in the Lake Superior Basin allow a limited mixing zone for wet. So Crystal Sugar proposed solution for Crookston factored in the wet mixing zone allowed under Mpca's Lake Superior Basin rules. It is important to emphasize that this approach is not only allowed by the Mpca in the Lake Superior Basin, it is also recommended by the US EPA to address toxicity and allowed by other states, including North Dakota, Wisconsin, and Missouri. Unfortunately, the Mpca has denied American Crystal Sugar's proposal, saying the agency has a policy of not allowing acute wet mixing zone in areas outside of Minnesota's Lake Superior Basin. The result of Mpca's actions is that Minnesota businesses such as ours in rural Crookston, Minnesota are being forced to unnecessarily incur millions of dollars in wastewater treatment, while similarly situated businesses in the Lake Superior Basin do not have to incur these costs. As I mentioned, the wastewater treatment system American Crystal Sugar would need to construct to meet these wet requirements without the mixing zone allowance will cost $14 million. By contrast, the approach proposed by Crystal Sugar, which would be allowed if we were simply located in the Lake Superior Basin, would cost less than $1 million. It is also important to emphasize that this reduced financial cost would not come at the expense of aquatic life. In fact, as Crystal Sugar will explain later in this presentation, Crystal Sugar's proposed approach would provide greater protection for aquatic life than the approach currently required by the Mpca for the greater portion of Minnesota. Finally, one of the reasons American Crystal Sugar Company is in favor of this bill is that it can ensure equal treatment of businesses while still protecting the environment. We know the wet mixing approach will protect aquatic life in the receiving water because both the Mpca and the EPA have already said it does. Now I'd like to turn it over to Crystal Sugar's Environmental Legal Counsel, Jeremy Greenhouse, who will explain a few regulatory aspects of the bill.
Thank you. And we'll hold questions until after the testimony. Mr. Greenhouse, if you would go ahead. And before that, Senator Johnson, I just want to make a note so everybody knows this has been through the Environmental Legacy and Finance Committee and Policy Committee, chaired by Senator Ruud. It's also been through State Government Policy Committee, and from there was referred to here. So a lot of this discussion has gone on. We'll allow a certain amount of testimony so we know what we're voting on here. I think it's important. So, but if we can condense the version a little bit, it would certainly help Mr. Greenhouse, so we can leave it open for questions. So with that, go ahead, Mr. Greenhouse. Welcome to the committee, and please identify yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Jeremy Greenhouse. I'm outside environmental legal counsel for American Crystal Sugar Company.
Welcome.
Thank you. And if it's okay if I could share my screen again.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. What I'd like to do just is briefly touch on a few regulatory issues associated with the bill. I've done this in a question and answer format, and I will try and get through these as quickly as possible so we don't belabor this. So one of the questions come up, when are discharges allowed a wet mixing zone under Mpca's rules? And just wanted to emphasize that Mpca expressly allows mixing zones. PCA's statewide water rules set technical specifications, and if a discharger meets those, the rules provide that a reasonable allowance will be made for dilution of the effluents. In other words, a mixing zone. And these are common in Minnesota when Mpca sets permit limits. However, Mpca's statewide mixing rules do not specifically address mixing zones for whole effluent toxicity. And as Doug alluded to, in the Lake Superior Basin, the dischargers in that region of Minnesota are subject to the statewide mixing zone rules, but also Mpca in 1989 adopted whole effluent toxicity specific mixing zone rules that apply only to dischargers in the Lake Superior Basin. And as the slide indicates, the PCA adopted these rules pursuant to EPA's Great Lakes initiatives. And in relevant part, that guidance requires Great Lakes states to include a whole effluent toxicity criteria, a water quality standard of 0.3 toxicity units or TUA, but it provides that states have the discretion to allow a wet mixing zone. It's at the discretion of the permitting authority. And in the exercise of that discretion, the Mpca, when it adopted its Lake Superior Basin rules, decided to allow a wet mixing zone. And so the last bullet point on this screen is that those rules say that dischargers shall not exceed 1.0 toxicity units at the end of the pipe, unless a demonstration is made that 0.3 can be met at the edge of an approved mixing zone. So it's either option. By contrast, outside of Lake Superior Basin, as I mentioned, there are no whole effluent toxicity specific rules. Mpca nonetheless prohibits wet mixing zones based on a 20-year-old policy document. It's the title up there. And this title, by its own terms, was intended to be Mpca's temporary guidance document until such time as rules are finalized. But the Mpca has yet to adopt these rules. Now, the key difference that I'd like to draw your attention to here is that the policy document simply says that dischargers have to meet 1.0 at the end of the pipe. It doesn't allow this additional option that's allowed in the Lake Superior Basin of instead showing that you can meet 0.3 at the edge of a mixing zone. And that's the key difference that this bill is trying to address, to allow that additional option of meeting 0.3 at the edge of a mixing zone outside of the Lake Superior Basin. The bill does this very simply. It directs Mpca to undertake the rulemaking to stop regulating by policy and to finally start the rulemaking it said it would undertake some 20 years ago. It first directs the MPCA to make the rules, as Doug said, adopt the Lake Superior Basin rules statewide so that everybody's subject to the same requirements. Essentially, if it's good enough for the Lake Superior Basin, it ought to be good enough for the rest of the state. The rule also includes some interim provisions directing MPCA to, as much as possible, apply the Lake Superior wet rules for all dischargers pending that rulemaking, and then includes some implementation provisions as well. One question that's come up is whether the bill violates the Clean Water Act, and our interpretation is that it doesn't. States implementing the Clean Water Act, such as Minnesota, sometimes have to impose permit limits for whole effluent toxicity, but states have discretion whether or not to allow a wet mixing zone. And I think that the fact that the bill does not violate the act is apparent from the fact that EPA has approved state regulations exactly along the lines of what's being proposed here in other states, including Wisconsin and Missouri. This approach is also consistent with longstanding EPA guidance. And then finally, Mr. Chair, the question has come up: isn't this issue being litigated? And I would suggest that litigated is a bit of a strong term here. And after many years of trying to work this out with the MPCA, Crystal Sugar felt it had no option but to try and take other steps. And in the exercise of due diligence, commence an administrative petition process before the Office of Administrative Hearings. This allows a party or any individual to seek a declaration from an administrative law judge that an agency is enforcing a policy as if it were a rule. So Crystal Sugar submitted a petition in January, MPCA responded, and we don't have a decision from the ALJ yet. Adoption of this bill would make that proceeding moot. But I'd also like to emphasize that's a different question. So I don't see any reason why the existence of that litigation means that this body should not be able to act on this bill, which addresses a broader issue. And then finally, I'd like to emphasize that Crystal Sugar takes its corporate environmental responsibilities very seriously, but given the extreme cost of the additional treatment facility here needed to meet MPCA's policy, and the fact that the policy, the approach that Crystal Sugar is proposing here would actually be more protective for aquatic life, but is simply not allowed by MPCA's policy, Crystal Sugar felt it had no choice but to take some additional steps. And with that, I'd like to turn it back to Doug Emerson just for a couple of final slides.
Thank you, Mr. Emerson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, just to quickly go through this slide, this is a demonstration. As you can see that in this example, 1.0 TUA is met at the end of pipe. It is not until a ways downstream that the mixing zone exceeds 0.3 TUA. And then Jeremy, the next slide there. This is what we're wanting or to be allowed is the implementation of a river diffuser that would allow a slightly greater TUA level at the end of pipe, but it would result in meeting the key metric of 0.3 TUA much sooner because of the rapid mixing employed by the diffuser under MPCA's current policy. So then in summary, American Crystal Sugar Company supports Senate File 839 and urges the committee to approve the bill because it would ensure that businesses in all parts of Minnesota are afforded the same more protective set of rules pertaining to whole effluent toxicity.
Okay, thank you. I also have Mr. Pilgrim from the Bar Engineering. I don't know if he wants to testify or wants to be on standby for questions. Mr. Pilgrim or Senator Johnson, what's your preference?
Mr. Chair, I think we've gone through Mr. Pilgrim's presentation there pretty well. So I think at this point we could just move on to questions.
Well, I'm going to have to allow the MPCA to weigh in on this too, Senator. So I'll do that now. And after they're done, I will quickly have Mr. Mueller go through the physical aspects of the bill, and then we'll open it up for some questions, if that's okay. So, Ms. Gauthier from the MPCA, are you available?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. For the record, my name is Greta Gauthier, and I work as Assistant Commissioner at the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Chairman, today to testify on Senate File 839. We The whole effluent toxicity is a tool from the Federal Clean Water Act that states, including Minnesota, use to ensure that discharge from permitted facilities does not harm fish, bugs, and other aquatic life in the surface waters. This use of whole effluent toxicity in Minnesota is a rule. We oppose this bill, Mr. Chairman, for four main reasons. First of all, this language has implications way beyond the one permittee for whom it is written. There are 47 permittees statewide that have whole effluent toxicity conditions in their water discharge permit. These include major industrial facilities such as 3M and Cottage Grove, raw malting of Shakopee, Boise Cascade and International Falls, the Marathon Refinery, and Poet Ethanol Plant in Lake Crystal. These 47 also include municipal wastewater treatment plants, several in the Twin Cities, Worthington, Winona's, East Grand Forks, St. Cloud's, Wilmer, and several others. Each of these permits would need to be rewritten under this bill, and each of them would be allowed to increase the toxicity levels of their effluent at the point measured at the point where it comes out of their discharge pipe. So their implications are broad beyond this one permittee. Second, there are provisions in this bill that conflict with the Federal Clean Water Act. It is the language, I believe, on lines 2.12 and 2.13 that unilaterally rescind the application of anti-backsliding provisions. Those anti-backsliding provisions are required in the Clean Water Act. The effect of this rescinding them is that these facilities would be allowed to make water quality worse. By conflicting with this federal regulation, this bill would also increase uncertainty for permittees. Third, the matter is currently in litigation, as the testifiers before me have noted. And so we feel that the litigation should be allowed to play out before statutory changes are made. That is kind of a tradition at the legislature. Fourth, this bill has, and most importantly for this committee, Mr. Chairman, this bill has significant costs that are not funded. For one thing, it requires the rulemaking. Secondly, if it was enacted, then there would be the cost of redoing those 46 other permits in the group of 47 that have whole effluent toxicity conditions, the cost of redoing those other permits. And fifth, just to clarify about the standard for the Great Lakes, Mr. Chairman, Minnesota and all the other Great Lakes states and the Great Lakes provinces in Canada were required by the federal governments in the two countries to implement specific water quality standards for the Great Lakes Basin. Those are different than the rest of Minnesota's standards. We had our whole effluent toxicity standard in place when the EPA required this new standard to be negotiated amongst the states and provinces for the Great Lakes Basin. So those numbers represent the results of that compromise and were approved by the EPA. The standard that we have had in Minnesota, both before and since, for all the waters outside of the Great Lakes watershed, is designed to be Minnesota specific and to protect our waters and our aquatic life in Minnesota. So, Mr. Chairman, these days we have constituents of yours and others and general citizens constantly asking our agency to improve water quality statewide. People are concerned that 40% of our waters are impaired in Minnesota, and we are not getting asked to take things in the opposite direction, which is what we think this bill would do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Ms. Gauthier. You do have two other testifiers from the Mpca. Do you want them to say a few things, or do you want them to just stand for questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. They are here. They are my experts who can speak to specific questions if needed. Thank you.
Okay. Well, that completes, I believe, the testimony here, members. I I'm wondering if we'll open it up right now for questions, and I do have a couple of questions. The problem that I'm unless I misunderstood the testifier with regards to the paper document, the 20-year-old document that's not been adopted. Why would that be? Why would you not have adopted the rules from that 20-year-old document that was given to the Mpca? Ms. Gauthier.
Mr. Chairman, I believe our rules are clear on whole effluent toxicity. I can see if my experts know any more about a 20-year-old document, but what I can tell you is that our rules are clear. And again, there is litigation around this. And so it is before an administrative law judge right now. And I will just say that we have these requirements very clearly in our rules.
Well, okay, thank you. And to the legal process that's being played out, I know that happens occasionally, and sometimes that's because agencies don't move, so the industry has to do something, and a lot of times that jars opens up the beaver dam, if you will, to get things going in that direction. So I don't necessarily think that we have to wait until that process drops out. We are those that actually make the laws and adopt the laws, and we can do that whether there's something going on or not. That can always be stopped midstream. I think the testifier had said that as well. So, members, I see Torres Ray. Senator Torres Ray, you have a question. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question for Senator Johnson. If I understand this correctly, your bill will impact 47 permits. And I think the list was actually stated. And I would like to ask Ms. Gauthier to please share the list of the 47 permits that will be impacted. I would like to have them in front of us. And I would like to know, Senator Johnson, if you were aware of the impact on those 47 permits, and if you have had conversations or have been contacted by the other municipalities and companies and all the people that hold these permits. Have you been contacted, and are you aware of it?
Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Senator Torres Ray. I do have the list. I received that this morning of the industries that would be impacted here with the permits. However, I don't expect that these companies and these industries and these particular permittees are going to be increasing their effluent output based on any sort of wet effluent toxicity. This happened because there was a change that was needed within the plant itself. So for me, it may have some impact on them, or it might loosen up some standards or change the standard, I should say. But I don't think it's a detriment to our communities or to those industries. What this is that what we could pump out at 1.0 before, now we're getting a much more rapid mix, so that mixing zone becomes much smaller for the pollution itself. And what we're talking about here in East Grand or in Crookston is, the natural byproduct of the sugar beet processing. It's not like we're processing chemicals and doing all that sort of thing. These are sugar beets that are being taken down so you can get the actual beet sugar out of them. So it's not as if they're going to be a chemical company pumping out chemicals into the water. The biggest issue that they have is ammonia that comes out, and that's of course a naturally occurring product that happens in a lot of agricultural settings. So with that, I don't think this is going to have a major impact at all. It will have what I assume is a zero impact on an increase in any sort of pollution. But we can also talk to the testifiers too.
Follow up, Senator.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think, Senator Johnson, I understand what you're trying to do with this particular, company, but I think that the agency is letting us know that the changes that you're making will impact the rules for effluent toxicity for 47 more sites and for 7 more permits. So I think my question to you is very directed to your knowledge of that and how the bill that you are proposing will actually have an impact far beyond this specific company that you're trying to support. So I know we're running out of time, but I just wanted to make sure, Senator Johnson, that it is important to understand the impact of that rule to many others. It's not just this company that you're trying to support, it's 46 more. And that is a pretty significant change of the scope of what you're trying to do. And so it's difficult to just ignore that and say, okay, go ahead and try to do this with this specific company. And Mr. Chair, I also would like to ask the company to please share with me, and if other members are interested, I would like to have information about the profits that the company had in the last 5 years, net profits in Minnesota. I think that's important because the relevance to this is that they're talking about cost, right? So they cannot afford to comply with the rule. So I would like to know, are they being impacted? Is it they're not making enough money so that they cannot pay for these permits in relationship to other companies that actually do pay? So I would like to have that information from the company. And finally, I just want to make sure, Mr. Chair and members, because we do this for possible inclusion. I think this is for possible inclusion, correct?
That's correct.
Mr. Chair. So because we do this for possible inclusion, I want to leave on the record that I'm strongly opposed to this legislation for obvious reasons and the reasons that have been presented to us by Mpca. I think they are pretty strong and compelling. So I want to leave that on the record, and I believe that some members are strongly opposed, and I encourage them to leave that on the record. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members.
Thank you, Senator. And 2 points that I'd like to ask Mr. Greenhouse. And Mr. Greenhouse, with you represent the industry here, you can offline communicate with the senator with regards to the company's net profits or other profits. I'm not sure. I'm not a legal person. I'm not sure that you have to reveal that, but that's something you can talk to the senator offline if you would. And also, I'm wondering of the 45 or whatever it is, other permits that have been issued here, is this permit going to affect all of those industries in the state of Minnesota, with your views?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that's something that needs to be determined. What this rule, it changes the framework for applying mixing zones, but it's important to emphasize that mixing zones are still a very site-specific determination. So, for example, the Crookston facility discharges into a river that has a lot of flow. This is a very fast-flowing river. So, toxicity, the whole effluent toxicity is very much about how quickly aquatic life is exposed to the toxicity. So if you have a fast river, it's not an issue, whereas some facilities might be just discharging into a lake or a very slow flowing river, and under no circumstances are those facilities going to be granted a mixing zone. Also important to emphasize.
Well, we got session at noon, so Hoffman should be here any minute.
I was going to say also important to emphasize that
Sorry, Senator Tomassoni, you were on the, you should mute. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to finish that thought, that the important to emphasize that this 0.3 TUA, this exception, this is a very narrow exception. And my expectation is that most facilities will not be able to meet this. I think Crookston is in a unique position. They'll be able to meet this because they're willing to invest in a diffuser and because they discharge into a rapidly flowing river. I don't know the specifics of these other facilities, but I think you can't say across the board that they're all going to have their permits changed.
Sure. All right, I'll go to Senator Chris Eaton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I'm fairly certain that if it wasn't for the Great Lakes Basin Agreement law rule, that that permit would also be stronger, and which I would support. We've been working very hard to improve our water quality in this state, and to even entertain a bill that would lessen the water quality standards is appalling to me. I strongly oppose this bill. I don't know if Senator Johnson, if you're aware that ammonia can be quite deadly, and it's even natural things can harm the environment if they're put in the water in excess. So this is I strongly support the contributions of the sugar industry to our state, and I'm glad that they employ a lot of people and they help our bottom line. But I think it's important that the purity of our water comes first.
Thank you, Senator Eaton. Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I still find myself confused. I don't know if that we can remedy that today or not. That's kind of a state of being. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I heard fairly directly and now emphasized and repeated by the company that this is a cheaper way to get better water quality than the PCA's alternative. And of course, the PCA says the opposite. So if I could ask Ms. Gauthier or her experts to help me reconcile. I mean, if this is a better idea for better water quality, better for aquatic organisms, for cheaper, then why not do this? Cheaper and better. But I think I hear the opposite from the PCA. So can
Ms. Gauthier, do you have somebody that can answer that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do. I would like to turn this question to Catherine Nuschler, and we have put together a slide that unfortunately I was unable to open when I was doing my testimony. Another one of the travails of remote hearings, but she has queued it up. And so if you would permit, I think she can explain why the water quality, this will answer Senator Dibble's question about water quality, I believe.
Well, before we go any further, we're getting into some of this policy stuff here, and I don't mind doing that. I just want to know how long this will take, or if it's just a direct question that Senator Dibble has that can be answered. Ms. Nuschler, is that right?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Catherine Nuschler. I'm the manager of the water assessment section, and I just have two pictures that I think might help answer the question, if I may.
Sure.
Okay. So hopefully, you can all see a slide that says no acute mixing zone. So this is what the PCA rules say. We require the facilities to meet 1 toxic unit equivalent at the end of pipe. That's where we set and measure our limit. That's equivalent to the point where 50% of the organisms that are exposed to the water and effluent mix die when they're exposed over a certain time. So 1 toxic unit comes out of the pipe. There is dilution, but there's no areas of acute toxicity where that water exceeds that toxic unit equivalent. What would happen with a mixing zone is that, in fact, what would come out of the end of pipe, which would still be where we would set our permit limits, would be higher. And depending on the specifics of the mixing zone, it could be much higher. It could be 3 toxic units. It could be 10. And while that mixing and dilution does happen and the toxicity decreases as the effluent mixes with the receiving water, you end up with these zones of acute toxicity where the toxicity equivalent is more than 1. So more than 50% of the organisms that would be exposed would die. And so While that might result in being able to meet a 0.3 toxic unit out at the edge of the mixing zone, there's more pollution and more toxicity coming out of the end of the pipe. And that's our concern with this, with allowing this. So I hope that is helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I mean, I think that helps explain it pretty well. That
Okay.
more toxins going in, more consequence for the natural environment. Thank you.
Senator, yeah, okay. Again, we're getting way into the policy part here, and I think it's been gone over by two other committees, and we've had a fairly good understanding here. If I could actually switch over to Mr. Mueller, the fiscal impacts here or the cost of this particular bill, would you go over that, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. If everyone has the fiscal note for Senate File 839 here, I'll jump to page 4 of the fiscal note under assumptions. A couple things are happening here. Number one, with the date of that they want the new rule to be completed by. PCA is saying that the normal time for rulemaking is 18 months, but this bill would require it to be done in 9 months. So that kind of compacts some of the costs. They're identifying some costs actually happening in fiscal year 21, depending on when this bill would take effect. That would probably be shifted one later fiscal year. It would probably be in fiscal year 22 and 23. So as they said here, that they use the standard rulemaking cost to apply to this bill. And then they had talked about updating the other 46 permits. On page 5, it gets into those costs. The rulemaking cost is $630,000. And depending on when this bill would take an effect, it would be either over 1 or 2 fiscal years. We'd probably spread it over 2 fiscal years. And then the updating the other permits is $41,000 a year, and they have that as an ongoing cost. So the total between over a 2 fiscal year period would be about a little over $400,000, and that would come from the environmental fund. And I also would want to note that there is a cost to the administrative hearings of $29,000. That's for a standard cost for rulemaking. That would be charged to the PCA, but would then be transferred over to the Board of Administrative Hearings. So briefly, that's the fiscal note. Like I said, it would be the cost of to pay for it, depending on when it starts over a biennium, would be about $417,000, and that would come from the environmental fund.
So I've got a question. You said that the standard rule making process was $630,000. Is that kind of a across the board standard? Maybe that question you can answer as well as Ms. Gauthier.
Mr. Chairman, yes, the fiscal note does cite, there is a rulemaking policy, let me see, they call it a rulemaking manual, and estimates a standard time period for rulemaking and a cost. So they do try using a standard cost now for rulemaking, depending on if it's a major rulemaking process or a minor one. But they do try applying that cost over, so it's somewhat consistent in fiscal notes, and maybe the PCA can answer that a little bit more if they try to consistently use those cost estimates. But yes, it's the rulemaking costs here. They're citing a $630,000 total.
Okay, Chairman. Ms. Gauthier.
To the fiscal note, Mr. Chairman, thank you, Mr. Mueller. We do go by the fiscal note guidelines and so forth in computing our costs, but this one, we did make it a little bit higher because of the short timeline. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So that tells me that the longer, Ms. Gauthier, the longer the program goes, the less money it costs. I'm not quite gathering that. Or is it because you're jamming everything in real fast, or?
Mr. Chairman, it would be the latter, that we're trying to load a whole bunch of activities into a short period of time because the language has the rule being completed in early 2022.
Okay.
So we would not be able to start work. Well, actually, I don't know the effective date. Maybe the effective date is the day after implementation or passage, but our rulemakings are 18 months, and for controversial rulemakings, it can be longer. We anticipate this one would be controversial. And so between the fact that it's controversial, which means that we would probably, if there's enough people that sign a petition, we can have a hearing before an ALJ. So we're assuming that would happen. We're assuming that a lot of people would comment. We do under Chapter 14. We are required to respond to every single comment, and we do that. But if there are a lot of comments, that takes time. So those are the considerations that we're looking at, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you for that description. Good discussion, members. I don't see any more questions. Senator Johnson, any final comments?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to present today. I know it's a kind of a complex matter and gets very technical, but you know, this isn't a big, massive corporation. This is a co-op owned by 2,600 families up and down the Red River Valley who would really appreciate your support on this. So thank you very much for your time.
Okay, Senator. With that, Senate File 839 will be laid over for possible inclusion. Thank you, and thank you to the testifiers. Members, next up is Senate File 787, Senator Ruud.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I have Senate File 787. This legislation would provide $450,000 per year or $900,000 over the biennium to pay for the operations of the Greater Minnesota Parks and Trails Commission. I think it's really time that we get their operating costs out of the legacy dollars. The Metropolitan Council funds their operating costs for their legacy dollars out of the general fund, and I think it would be appropriate to do that for the Greater Parks and Trails also. With me today, I have two testifiers. I have Renee Matson and Ben Anderson.
Good. Ms. Matson, please identify yourself and proceed, and welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Senators, for the opportunity today. My name is Renee Matson. I'm with the Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission. I'm the Executive Director. Coming to you today from beautiful Duluth, where it's raining nicely. The Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission is responsible for designating as regionally significant parks and trails in the 80 counties that are outside the 7-county metropolitan area. So with those designations that are stringent in nature to ensure that the facilities are all, as stated, regionally significant, comes the opportunity for those facilities to apply for funding through legacy. So it's a role we take seriously, and to date, since 2013, have designated those 64 facilities as regionally significant. Facilities designated have a diverse range of opportunities for Minnesotans. We have everything from an interesting campground and horse camp in Big Falls on the beautiful Big Fork River, which is an awesome facility, to a unique 360-acre shooting range outside of Bemidji and Beltrami County. All 64 facilities that we have offer varying differences or experience. We've been enriching users, particularly this past year with COVID. All of the parks and trails, all of our partners at Metropolitan Council and the DNR will tell you that we've seen incredible growth, just an explosion in our parks and trails this year. And that's wonderful. You know, that's something we all hope will continue in the future and isn't just a flash in a pan this year. We have made a huge effort to engage users too that are missing our parks and trails in Greater Minnesota. This year, as part of what we're doing in our funding cycle, we're setting aside $750,000 for connecting people with the outdoors grants. Those are intended to keep our facilities and thinking about ways that they can engage underserved communities, individuals that just aren't getting out into our parks for a number of reasons, encouraging them to think creatively about that. So as part of that, we lose, as Senator Ruud mentioned, $900,000 in a biennium. Well, I shouldn't say lose, but we spend those dollars on operating costs. The commission runs on a very, very lean budget. I'm coming to you from my home office in Duluth. I'm one of 2 contract workers for the commission. My partner is in Bemidji. You can see my dog's probably over my shoulder at the door trying to get out right now. But we do run on a very lean budget, and we would just hope that, like our partners at Mpca Counsel and DNR, we could apply funds from the general fund for our operating expenses. Those $900,000 would easily pay for 2 to 3 projects in Greater Minnesota that instead are going to our operating costs. So we appreciate your hearing us today. I know it's a big ask, but we're grateful for your time. And I just want to distinguish too that our 3 partners in Parks and Trails Legacy, DNR and Metropolitan Council, are all a little different. I don't want to imply that we are in any way replicating their efforts. Regional trails in Greater Minnesota, when they apply for designation, we ensure that the areas they're serving are missing something. There's a gap there that our regional parks and trails are filling. So it's a really important part of what we have available in Minnesota. And we just hope that you'll consider our request for $900,000 to be used for our operating budget over the next biennium so that we can use those funds to fund some really good projects in Greater Minnesota. And with that, I will turn it over to Ben Anderson, who is here representing Greater Minnesota Parks and Trails, which is a sister organization to us. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you for that testimony, Ms. Matson. I have been able to see that the animals in the background, and that was one of my jobs in my earlier life when I had a canine, was to be able to read your dog, and pretty smart. They've been coming and going through that door by themselves. I don't see any hands or any arms coming out, so they're doing quite well. With that, Mr. Anderson, welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. My name is Ben Anderson. I am the Parks Director for Stearns County, and I also serve as the Vice Chair for Greater Minnesota Parks and Trails. Greater Minnesota Parks and Trails is a nonprofit advocacy group that is comprised of more than 125 cities, counties, and supporters dedicated to improving outdoor recreation in Minnesota. We strongly support this legislation. Interest in our parks and trails has grown steadily over the years, but we have seen explosive growth during the pandemic and hope to build on this trend. For example, the regionally significant Quarry Park and Nature Preserve, which is located within the city limits of Waite Park near St. Cloud. This park is known mostly for its swimming attributes, with the main attraction being a 20 to 25 foot jump off of a granite rock ledge into 116 feet deep water below. In fact, this park was named one of the top 10 swimming holes in the country by the Travel Channel. During the pandemic, park usership skyrocketed, with our 2020 Quarry Park revenue being 20% greater than in 2019. And this was with limited parking during our busiest time of year, Memorial Day through Labor Day. Last summer, it was not uncommon to have 100 plus vehicles on a waiting list to get into the park, and some people waited 4 to 5 hours to enter the park. In a quick breakdown on where Quarry Park visitors came from in 2020, 43% of our visitors came from the 7-county metro area, 31% from counties other than Stearns and the 7-county metro area, 23% were from Stearns County, and 3% was from out of state. Another way to look at these numbers are people from 83 of Minnesota's 87 counties and people from 44 out of 50 states visited Quarry Park. Even during a pandemic, people traveled from all over the state and country to enjoy our regionally significant parks and trails. Quarry Park is just one example of the increased park and trail usership over the past year, as it was not uncommon for our parking lots to be at or near capacity at most of our regionally designated parks and trails. Regional parks and recreational trails provide and will continue to make available space for people to escape from everyday stressors and will continue to provide physical, mental, and emotional benefits. Historically, there was not a dedicated source of funds for regional parks and trails in Greater Minnesota, which is why the legacy funds have been so impactful. For example, in Stearns County, we have been able to complete a 3.2-mile section of the regionally significant Lake Wobegon Trail. This was a crucial segment as it brought the Lake Wobegon Trail from the city of St. Joseph into the St. Cloud metro area and created easier trail access for the 100,000 plus residents, businesses, and visitors of the greater St. Cloud metro area. We strongly support this legislation because we believe the commission plays an important role throughout greater Minnesota and should be funded. Paying for operational costs out of the general fund will free up money that can be spent on projects such as nature centers, swimming beaches, paved and unpaved trail extensions, and maintenance of trails, nature-based play areas, park and trail land acquisitions, campground facilities, and much more. The demand for these funds far outweigh what is available. For example, here in Stearns County, we are looking to complete a 4-mile segment of regionally significant Beaver Island Trail that would connect the city of St. Cloud to the city of Clearwater, and also include a trail connection to the regionally significant Warner Lake County Park. We are also hoping to start developing the regionally significant Kramer Lake Wildwood County Park. These phase 1 developments will include better park access and parking, picnic shelters, a non-motorized boat access, and a fishing pier. Without the availability of these legacy funds, many of these regionally designated park and trail projects could not be completed. Although the pandemic has been challenging, it has also opened our eyes to many new and exciting adventures, and visiting and enjoying regionally significant parks and trails is one of these new experiences for many. Therefore, each and every dollar collected through the Legacy Amendment for parks and trails should be spent to develop and enhance these experiences and should not be used to pay for operational costs. Thank you for your time and consideration. On behalf of regional parks and trails across Minnesota, we ask that you support Senate File 787 and include funding for the commission in your omnibus finance bill. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Very clear and concise. Senator Ruud, I have a question, and we'll open it up for questions, but my first question is, Senator Ruud, you started out the conversation today saying that the administrative costs for the Metro and the DNR are not included. Is that correct in their appropriation through Legacy?
I believe that the Metro Parks get approximately $76 million out of the general fund for their operating costs. And then they also receive legacy dollars, but their operating costs are taken out of the general fund. And so we just think that it would be, they get 40% of the legacy in our split, and the greater parks and trails get 20%. And in that split has worked very well. But we just think maybe that if we take the operating costs out of the general fund, it would give the greater Minnesota regional parks more operating or more dollars out of the legacy fund that they could spend actually on the parks. We never thought that our main problem would be that people have loved our parks so much this year that we've spent all these years trying to get people to come into our parks and use our parks and trails, and now they're there, and we're realizing that we need to expand on that and keep them in the outdoors. So.
Yeah, and I know the regional parks have been expanding as we go along since the inception. That was always an issue, but not anymore. We have lots of demand in rural Minnesota, as well as what the DNR and the Metro covers. Maybe Mr. Mueller, can you have you got a definition? Not a definition, but an idea. As I think you also sit with Senator Ruud in that finance committee. Is the money broken down with the DNR and the Metro Council, the 40/40s, as to how that is appropriated? Is there part there for directly for administration?
Mr. Chairman and members, it is a little different with state parks and metro parks in that they do receive overall general fund appropriations through your bill, through your committee for their regular operations. For instance, Metro Park receive about $5 million of general fund normally in the base budget to operate their metro parks. And I would assume some of that does go for their overall coordinating between their legacy dollars and things like that. So And like Senator Ruud said, they also get, Met Council also gets a pretty big general fund appropriation just generally through the Transportation Committee. So they run a much bigger operation that gets money from various sources, and they're able to cover their parks coordinating costs through those bigger appropriations. What this bill is saying is, the Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails isn't part of a bigger organization or agency. So whatever coordinating dollars or coordinating costs they have to take out of the legacy funds.
Right. And I'm assuming the DNR is the same.
Mr. Chairman, correct. They run a much bigger operations and get other park money that they're able to pull together to do all their coordinating and not necessarily have to take it out of their legacy dollars.
Thank you. Question, Senator Eaton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Senator Ruud, I support this in that I don't think the legacy dollars should be used for operating expenses. I think this is more replacement dollars. It's a state's responsibility to cover those. But the question I have is, with a $15 million cut to this budget for the environment, where is this $1 million or 900,000 going to come from?
Is that a question to Senator Ruud?
Either of you.
Anybody?
Ruud. I mean, if you're going to cut 15 million, what is this coming from?
Oh, you're talking about I'm sorry, you're talking about the target?
The committee's general fund target.
Okay, well, that's something that we're going to have to work out on many different bills here. So this might be one that gets funded, and there might be something else that gets cut. That's yet to be determined. That's why we lay them over for possible inclusion. And we also go through the policy bill that Senator Ruud has put together over the last couple of months. So, Senator Ruud, do you have any comments at all, or?
Well, Mr. Chair and Senator Eaton, it's a very good question. I think as we go through and look at the bills that we have laid over and have heard hearings on, we'll have to prioritize where we spend those dollars. And so I'm just hoping that this committee will see fit that this is a very worthwhile priority to fund.
Yeah, and thank you. And Senator Eaton, understand, that budget includes an awful lot of things. It includes as you well know, the zoo and the science museum, as well as the DNR and Mpca. So when I get a target like that, it comes from all different areas where we feel that we can, make those cuts, not necessarily here. So I guess that's the only answer I can give you. I guess we have to wait and see how that all shakes out. Okay. Any other questions, members? Seeing none, Senator Ruud, Senate File 787 will be held over for possible inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you to the testifiers. Members, that's all we have before the. I'm sorry.
Thank you for hearing us.
Thanks. Members, that's all we have on the agenda for today. So with that, we stand adjourned.